Because now I'm creeping up in that age where I guess I'm a mentor now. I'm like, oh, there are people who look up to me. So I have to I have to make sure that I am listening to that and listening to them and making sure that I'm imparting the words and the wisdom that I learned along the way from the people who told me, but that's how you keep it alive. It's way bigger than boxing, Russ. So it's gonna be up to you to show who Claressa Shields really is.
This ain't just about me. This is for all the women.
Ryan, I got to ask you, I was watching the movie and I thought you were a professional boxer after watching it because
Thank you.
the fight scenes. And I was surprised to realize how much training went into your role, because I thought you really nailed the fight scenes crazy.
Thank you so much. So I did about 3-4 months in 2020 when we, had our first go around of all of this, and then I did it again in 2022. So all in all, it was around 6-7 months. That second time, I had to balance between weight training and boxing training. So yeah, it was so new for me, and I think my boxing coach really likes that. I felt like he kept saying he felt like he had a blank canvas to work with, and so he could just build on top of that. But yeah, no boxing, no boxing in me before. It was completely new for me, definitely. But I technically do dance, and I think that helped me a lot in just being able to replicate what I saw. And I think that helped a little bit. I was coordinated enough to, I guess, take it to that next level. So thank you.
Oh no, you were great. And Brian, it was interesting. I was reading the press notes and you said something kind of fascinating about how Jason's story reminded you a little bit about some of the people that you knew when you were starting off your career a little bit. And I was wondering if you could just elaborate on that a bit.
Yeah, I realized when taking this project that seeing the life and the character of somebody like Jason wasn't something that was accessible. To see this mentor, to see this man challenge his own beliefs about what he thought about a sport that he truly loved, and then to go on to coach one of the greatest female boxers of all time, reminded me of a lot of the people who showed up in my life who saw something in me. And we're like, you could actually be one of the best. You can actually go further in this than you could ever dream. Because I was a knucklehead, growing up, I just never thought, truly. I'm like sitting in a room with myself on a poster, and I'm just like, it's still just like, wow, they were right, it's so crazy. And this film in a way is an homage to them, and to honor them. I had a really great professor in undergrad named Dr. Bradley who, was the head of our theater department, and he would just always instill in me. He was like, you can really be the best. He was like, now if you get your head out of your ass, you can go further, but he's like, but you can really be the best. And I just think that stories like that, especially in our community and Black communities, knowing that there are mentors and people who guided us, who said that we can go further than we ever dreamed of, because life doesn't always show us that we have these opportunities. Life doesn't always provide us with these opportunities. And to know that there's somebody like Jason who is still coaching in Flint, Michigan, who's coached over 700 kids for free, he's volunteers most of his time. This is for them, this is for them. Because now I'm creeping up in that age where I guess I'm a mentor now. I'm like, oh, there are people who look up to me. So I have to I have to make sure that I am listening to that and listening to them and making sure that I'm imparting the words and the wisdom that I learned along the way from the people who told me, but that's how you keep it alive. That's how you continue to grow. So big ups to all of them for that.
Well, I really love the movie, and I'm really glad to know that there are people like Jason and Claressa out there still, and it's good to know that. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So I'm a fan of, I'm definitely a boxing fan, and I really liked what you did with the fight scenes in the movie. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you set them up, because I thought they were really well done. Just getting the gist of the craft involved, and I thought Ryan was amazing.
Thank you. Well, I'm a boxing fan too. I think, some of it, I actually, along with Ryan, trained a little bit so that I could understand what it felt like to hit and get hit and try to really put the audience inside the ring, which I think is, not every boxing film does that. I think a lot of times it's sort of 5 cameras through the ropes, through the foreground, and we were really trying to be internal and experiential and, try to communicate something different with each fight. I mean, we needed to. Every fight had its own stakes, and emotionally she's in a different place. But, I think just staying with her, and what it's like to be a teenage girl moving between high school, conflicts, and then in the ring being this force, was a chance to do something a little differently too. And I think the other biggest thing, sorry to just have thought of it, but like we have so many fights in the first half of the movie that it was also, I approached it with like, how do we keep from having fight fatigue, and how do we make each fight a little bit different and light it differently and choose different locations and, keep it visually dynamic as well.
Well, that brings me to another point, because I feel like there's another version of this movie that ends with her getting the gold medal, and it's the inspirational kind of Rocky ending. But then that happens halfway through the film here, where there's and it's really in the end about a lot more than just boxing. If you could go into that a little bit, I think because I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, I mean, that was part of what attracted to me to this project was, obviously to amplify Claressa's voice and the amazing work, the history she's made as a boxer, and to tell this story that people should know, but also to upend the sports movie. I mean, we all know what that looks like. The start from nothing, work really hard, have a setback, double down, and then win, and you're up in your seats, you're super excited, and the credits roll. But that's not life.
No.
Even when you have it simpler than Claressa had it, you don't really get to stay on top forever. And so to me, there's something much more inspiring and relatable about what happens after the win. And in Claressa's case, so many bigger issues at play, and to not have the work be valued, and to have to pick yourself back up after all of that and still find the desire to keep going. And, I think of it almost as an inspirational life movie instead of an inspirational sports movie. And there's something in that for everybody. We're not all world-class athletes, but we all know what it's like to get knocked down and then have to find the fire within, if you will, to get back up.
Was that the theme that made you want to make the leap from cinematography to directing with this as your first film? I
mean, I was invested in it in a way that I was nervous, obviously, to step out in front of a project. I'm sort of protected as a cinematographer, and I love it. I'm very creatively fulfilled, but also, no matter how the film does, but the cinematography is great. Nobody's ever you're not the face of the thing, and I was certainly nervous about putting myself out there in this very vulnerable way, but it felt worth it. The story felt worth it. The chance to kind of try some crazy new structure felt worth it. The relatability and the inspiration felt worth it. So I think it was all of the above, I guess, and seeing myself in it really felt like if I was going to do it, this is the one sort of worth fighting for.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and I have to say I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was great.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.